Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Shumbiya al-Mursaleen. Sayyidina Muhammadin wa alihi wa sahbihi ajma'een. Wa ba'd, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to our third lesson of Riyadh al-Sabyan, educating children. And we had just began the first few lines of the poem, where he said, فَتَأْدِيبُ لِلصَّبْيَانِ مِنْ أَوَّلِ النَّشْوِ أَتَمُّ that the education of children from the initial stages is a great affair. Again, we talked about the understanding of what is ta'deeb. Adab comes from the word adab, putting everything in its correct place. And there's actually a narration where the Prophet ﷺ said, Adabani Rabbi fa-ahsana ta'deebi, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala taught me adab and made my adab hasan. Right, he made my adab hasan, like sound, made my adab sound. And this is one of the things that we are taught, that one of the best things that a father can give his son or daughter is good adab, right? Is good adab, good character, good mannerisms. And the word sibyan, which has been translated children, it linguistically means a child until the age of puberty. So anything before the age of puberty, we would call that person a sabi for a male, and sabiya for a female. And so sibyan is children before the age of puberty. Once a child hits puberty, from an Islamic perspective, they become an adult. They need to pray, they need to give zakat, they need to, if they've got money, they need to pray Ramadan, they need to fast Ramadan, and so forth. So we're focusing on that age group which is before puberty. And we did talk about this idea of tarbiyah, which is nurturing, also this idea of developing the child. This is the first physical development, there's a spiritual development. And so then he goes on to say, لأن تأديب الصبي في صغره زيادة لحظه في كبره, that the upbringing of a child in the early years will increase his portion in the later years. So I talked about before that whatever is established in a child's early formative years is going to stay with them for life, or when they go into adult life. And we know also from secular studies that they say that the personality of a child is formed in the first 7 years of the child's life. So those initial years and what happens, the interaction between the parent and child, is extremely important. It's building the foundation of that human being. And the child basically is just absorbing whatever it's getting from the parents. This is why it's important for parents to always be showing the best possible behavior themselves, and also their general energy. If they're frustrated, the child will pick up that the parent's frustrated. If they're agitated, the child picks it up. So they have to work on regulating their emotions and becoming more stable. If they're stable, the child feels stable. So a lot of it is down to how the parent behaves. So the parent might not realize, especially when the child's 3-4 years old, they might not think that what they're doing is being picked up by the child, but in essence, everything is getting picked up by the child. ينال في ذاك الحظوظ الوافرة وراحة الدنيا وخير الآخرة. In that he will gain in abundance good fortune, peace in this world, and goodness of the next. Right, so sets them up for this world. And obviously good character is one of the heaviest things on the scales in the Day of Judgment, so it's going to benefit them in the next life. فَيَنْبَغِي لِكُلِّ جَدٍّ وَأَبِي. Therefore, educating the child, let's read the full thing. فَيَنْبَغِي لِكُلِّ جَدٍّ وَأَبِي وَقَيِّمِ الْحَاكِمِ تَأْدِيبُ الصَّبِي. That therefore, educating the child is a must for every grandfather, father, and everyone given responsibility. So everyone who is connected to the upbringing of the child, this is extremely important for them to understand, that the education of the child is extremely important. For he is a trust granted to them. لأنه أمانة عندهم وقلبه يقبل تأديبهم. For he is a trust granted to them, and his heart is open to their education. So the first thing we have to note here is the way he describes the child as an amana, a trust. So a trust, as you know, means that somebody's given you something, entrusted you something, and you're in charge of safeguarding it, looking after it until the owner comes back and you give it back to them. And what happens is, when someone gives you something which is not yours, you tend to look after it very well, because you know it's not mine. I need to make sure that I give it back in the right way the way I got it. Whereas if it was your own thing, you might be neglectful because it's your own, but someone else's, you take care of it. So the mental framework we should have is that this child is an amana, is a trust from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? So the first thing that we should understand from that is the child is not there for me to benefit from in whatever way I want. So some people, they feel that they've done the child a favor by bringing them up, and they say, well, I brought you up, therefore you must do as I say. You must marry such and such as payback almost, right? That's the wrong attitude. The attitude is, no, this is a child who's been granted to me by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I am responsible for the child because the child cannot do things by himself until the age of puberty. So I need to get this child, give them a good start in life, give them all the requisite skills set that they'll need to get through life. Otherwise, God is going to ask me about this. I'm going to be held accountable for any neglect, because I'm an adult, the child is not. When the child becomes an adult, they become responsible for themselves. Before that, it's my responsibility to get them to that point. So they're not there for my benefit, right? They're for me to benefit them. So they are coming to this world, innocent, clean slate, and it's my responsibility to give them all the things that they need, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has asked me to do for them. And his heart is open to their education. So like I said, they're like sponges. They absorb everything that the parent gives them. So the parent shouts at them, they absorb that as well. If the parent is violent towards them, they will absorb that. If the parent is neglectful, they'll absorb that. If the parent is loving, they'll also absorb that. If the parent is caring towards them, kind towards them, they'll also absorb that. So they're absorbing everything. And the thing is, it's a huge reward, because whatever the parents teach them, they will get the reward of whatever they taught them. So if the parent teaches them good manners, and that child then goes into adult life and displays good manners for the rest of their life, the parents were the people that taught him that, or taught her that, therefore they will also share in the reward. So think about, if you taught your child how to pray, they will pray for the rest of their lives. How many prayers they're going to pray? You also get a share of that reward, because you were the initial person to teach them how to pray. The mother should caution her child with the father, protecting him from iniquity and folly. وَتَنْهَرُ الْأُمُّ وَلَدَهَا زَجْرًا لَهُ عَنِ الْخَنَاءِ وَاللَّعِبِ. In another edition it says, وَالْأُمُّ لِابْنِهَا تُحَدِّدُ بِالْأَبِ زَجْرًا لَهُ عَنِ الْخَنَاءِ وَاللَّعِبِ. So the mother should caution her child with the father, protecting him from iniquity and folly. إِذْ قَلْبُهُ كَشَمْعَةِ الْمَقْصُورَةِ مُجَوْهَرَةٌ يَقْبَلُ كُلُّ سُورَةٍ. His heart is like a pure candle, able to adopt any form. So this idea of giving caution to the child, and the mother giving the caution to the child. Before that, just going back to this idea of whatever you do in the early years is going to affect them in the later years. Sometimes they describe this as like, the child's like dough. You can basically shape it wherever you want. In other words, you've got this clean slate. You can write anything on it you want. Okay, so you need to like capitalize on that. And that's why Ghazali says a child is a trust in the care of the parents, for his heart is a precious uncut jewel, devoid of any form or carving, which will accept being cut into any shape and be disposed according to the guidance it receives from others. So you have this pure entity in front of you, and you can shape it to become, whatever you want. So whatever you do for this child in these early years is going to be the making of that person. So it's a huge job, which is why the mother's role in our tradition is so important, because that is the making of the next generation. Literally, she is making the next generation. So this idea of the mother should caution her child with the father, this is what we will pick up on in the next lesson, because it needs a little bit of contextualization, because we don't have to necessarily follow this literally the way it's been put in this book, because again, like I said, the book has been written for a particular context, inshallah. So we will look at that in the next lesson. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless us all. Wa sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam tasliman kathira. Walhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen.